So first you start off with a sketch. The reason why is because you're going to trace the outer outlines that surround the character with a slightly thicker pen. I personally use thickness 5 for the outer outlines and thickness 4 for the outlines that show the details within the outer outline, if that makes sense. The outlines also have a specific style. Often corners are rounded and the lines get thicker at the rounded parts. However, there are exceptions. Normally lines don't sharpen unless a line is showing a detail like something being folded, scrunched up, or wrinkled. If the outer outline surrounding the character curves, then the line gets thicker the more we go up the curve and vice versa. And when you're finished with your outline, use the lasso tool to copy it, then go to the most bottom layer and paste it, and then color it. Make sure you keep everything on its own layer, the highlights. You're mostly just going to keep the highlights on its own layer. And what I mean by color it is color the bottom outline, the outline on the bottom layer. The reason why you're going to do this is so just go on a layer right above the outline, turn on clipping mask, and then when you go to shade or add the highlights, it does not go outside or over the outline. This makes it way easier to do everything. You do not need to turn on clipping mask when you draw the highlights because you can just erase it if it goes outside the line because it won't appear over the line. To do the highlights, you're just going to use a color that is slightly brighter than the base color, just bright enough to where it's noticeable. Then you're going to use the airbrush tool and choose a color that is more saturated and brighter than the highlight, and then just airbrush the middle to make the highlight more noticeable, and you're basically just highlighting the highlights. Then you're going to go to the layer just above the bottom outline, turn on clipping mask, and kind of shade around the highlights as if the highlights were casting a shadow on the object. To do that with colors that are white, you're basically just going to make the highlights white and just shade around that. You can keep different colored highlights on their own separate layer to make it easier. With colors that are black, they have no kind of highlight, but they have an airbrush highlight that most of the time goes towards the bottom. And if it's a pupil, or depending on the object, it can have just a little dot on the top of airbrushed highlight. Arms and legs have a consistent width, unless your OC or a character that you're drawing has arms and legs that vary in width. Most of the time, it's going to be a consistent width throughout the entire arm and leg, and they're also going to both be the same width, both arm and leg. They bend like a rubber hose character, as if they don't have bones. Hands have a cartoony look while also following more realistic human anatomy. And when you follow those steps, you should get something that looks very similar or even just like the Sonic Adventure art style. Like this. Sorry if I didn't really explain all the stuff well, but also just know that even with these tips, it will still take some practice in order to really crack the code. But I hope this video helped, and you should check out all my other videos. Bye bye.